My name is Clara Bennett. I'm 41 years old, and after 16 years of marriage, my husband ended things with me over a phone call, just to tell me he'd inherited nearly $800 million. Before I explain how he ended up collapsing inside a luxury showroom just 3 days later, let me know where you're watching from in the comments. I'm always amazed by how far these stories travel. It all began on a Tuesday. Not a dramatic one, not special, just painfully normal. I was sitting at my desk in a mid-sized financial consultancy downtown, surrounded by spreadsheets, audit reports, and the quiet hum of printers. The smell of stale coffee lingered in the air. Outside the window, traffic moved like it always did. Predictable, steady. That's how I liked my life. Order, structure, balance. Numbers make sense. People, not so much. For over a decade and a half, my dependable salary and cautious planning had kept our household standing. My husband, Marcus, had dreams, big ones, ideas that came and went like storms. I was the ground beneath them. My phone buzzed beside a stack of folders. Marcus. I smiled automatically. Old habits die hard. I assumed he was calling to vent about another deal that almost worked. "Hey," I answered lightly. "Clara." His voice was cold, flat, detached. I froze. "I need you to listen carefully," he said. Something in my chest tightened. My uncle Victor passed away. Victor was practically a legend in Marcus's family, a wealthy recluse who lived on an estate near Lyon. We'd met him only once years ago. "I'm so sorry," I said softly. "Don't be," Marcus snapped. Then came the tone, sharp, metallic, triumphant. He left everything to me, the entire estate, roughly $800 million. The number didn't feel real. It was abstract, like saying infinity. "Marcus, are you serious?" "Completely," he said. "And things are changing fast. My life is about to move to a different level." I swallowed. "And you're not coming with me." The words hit like ice water. "What are you saying? We're married." "Were," he corrected. "I've already spoken to my lawyer. Divorce papers are ready. I want you out of the apartment before I get back." The office around me felt too small. 16 years. 16 years of covering expenses. 16 years of encouragement after failures. 16 years of shrinking myself so he could feel bigger. Erased in one phone call. "Just leave me alone," I said quietly. "My new life doesn't need dead weight," he replied. The line went dead. That sound, the dial tone, was the loneliest noise I've ever heard. I drove home on autopilot, memories flickering past like scenes from a film. Our modest wedding, his jokes about my overly cautious planning, his dismissive comments about my career. I remembered the day we visited Uncle Victor years earlier. Marcus had talked endlessly about investments and power. Victor barely listened. Later, I'd found Victor alone on the terrace. We spoke for nearly an hour about ethics and finance, about responsibility, about truth behind numbers. Before we left, he handed me a crystal paperweight. "For clarity," he said, "never trade integrity for approval." I still had it. When I entered the apartment, Marcus was already there, wearing a designer suit I'd never seen, champagne on the table, divorce papers waiting. "No alimony," he said smugly. "You'll be fine. You have your little job." I signed without begging. As I walked out with one bag, something inside me hardened. Not into bitterness, but resolve. I stayed with my sister, Nora. She didn't sugarcoat anything. "She lost the best thing he ever had," she said. The next morning, I enrolled in an advanced forensic finance certification, a program I'd wanted for years, but was always talked out of. For the first time, every decision was mine. 3 days later, a letter arrived from a law firm in France requesting my presence regarding Victor's estate. I was confused, nervous. When I arrived, the lawyer explained the truth. Victor wasn't dead. The inheritance had been a test. Marcus failed it immediately, abandoning his wife, flaunting wealth he didn't yet have, exposing exactly who he was. And I passed. Victor had seen me long before Marcus ever did. The fortune, every cent, was legally mine. As I sat there in disbelief, my phone buzzed. A picture. Marcus on the floor of a luxury showroom, his card declined, his world collapsing. I blocked his number. Victor later adopted me legally. I took his name, not through marriage, but merit. Years passed. I didn't buy mansions or supercars. Instead, I founded the Clear Ledger Initiative, a foundation that funds and mentors women over 40 starting new ventures, because being steady is not the same as being small. I found love again with a man who admired my mind before my money. And Marcus, he faded into a quieter life. Sometimes loss teaches lessons money never can. That crystal paperweight still sits on my desk, reminding me that wealth doesn't change character, it only reveals it. I didn't hear from Marcus directly after that day, but the silence didn't last long. Within hours of leaving the apartment, my phone began lighting up with messages from mutual friends, people who had suddenly remembered I existed now that the story had become interesting. At first, I ignored them. I wasn't ready to hear updates about the man who had erased me from his life like a typo. But curiosity has a way of sneaking in when grief starts to cool. By the end of the first night at my sister Nora's place, I finally checked. Marcus had wasted no time. He posted photos from a luxury hotel bar, champagne flutes raised, captioned with things like "new chapter" and "blessed beyond measure." He tagged places he'd never been able to afford before: designer stores, private lounges, high-end car dealerships. He was spending money he didn't actually have, and everyone was applauding. I turned my phone face down and focused on my course material instead. If Marcus wanted to celebrate imaginary millions, that was his choice. I was done managing his impulses. The second day passed quietly. I studied, I cooked dinner with Nora, I slept for the first time without a knot in my chest. Then came day 3. That morning, my phone rang repeatedly, calls, texts, notifications piling up faster than I could read them. Finally, Nora grabbed my phone. "You might want to see this," she said slowly. A friend had sent a video. Marcus was inside a luxury auto showroom, glass walls, marble floors, spotlights reflecting off a midnight blue hypercar. He was mid-argument, pacing, waving his phone wildly. You could hear him shouting, "I told you the transfer is coming! You people don't know who you're dealing with!" Then the camera shook. Marcus staggered and collapsed. The caption read, "His card got declined. Everything froze. He just dropped." I felt nothing. No joy, no satisfaction, just a strange sense of inevitability. Because this was who Marcus had always been, living 10 steps ahead of reality, convinced the universe owed him patience. An ambulance was called, the dealership closed early, the video spread fast. And then finally, my phone rang again. Marcus. I didn't answer. The voicemails came next. At first, angry. "You set me up. You knew something I didn't." Then, desperate. "Clara, please call me. Something's wrong. They're saying the estate hasn't cleared yet." Then, pleading. "I made a mistake. We need to talk." I blocked his number. That night, the letter from the Bordeaux law firm arrived. Thick, cream-colored, formal. That was when everything changed. On the train to France, Nora kept watching me out of the corner of her eye. "You're too calm," I replied. "I'm exhausted," I said. "There's a difference." When we arrived at the law office, the truth unfolded piece by piece, each revelation heavier than the last. Victor was alive. The inheritance was conditional, and Marcus had failed before the ink was even dry. What shocked me most wasn't that Marcus had lost everything. It was that Victor had been watching all along. Every reckless purchase, every cruel decision, every moment Marcus chose ego over decency. Victor hadn't wanted an heir. He wanted a steward. And somehow, without ever trying to be seen, I had been. When the lawyer slid the documents toward me, my hands trembled. Not because of the money, but because for the first time in my life, someone had looked at me and said, "You matter, exactly as you are." That evening, as we left the office, my phone buzzed one last time before I shut it off completely. A message from an unknown number. "Please, I know you're behind this. I need you." I deleted it. Marcus had spent 16 years calling me cautious, boring, unambitious. Yet when the illusion of wealth vanished, I was the only one still standing. And this time, I wasn't standing behind anyone. I didn't become rich overnight. Not in the way people imagine. There were no sudden shopping sprees, no dramatic lifestyle flips, no champagne-soaked celebrations. The money existed on paper long before it ever felt real. What changed first wasn't my bank account. It was my posture. For the first time in years, I stood without bracing myself for someone else's instability. Victor insisted we work together before anything else. "Money without understanding is noise," he told me. "Let's make it mean something." So we did. Day after day, we sat across from each other at long wooden tables inside his estate, surrounded by records that traced decades of disciplined building. He didn't lecture me. He asked questions, and when I answered, he listened. We audited his companies together, streamlined waste, reinforced ethics policies. I saw firsthand how power could be exercised quietly, responsibly, not loudly, not cruelly. Victor formally adopted me later that year. I took his name not to inherit status, but to carry forward a standard. Meanwhile, Marcus unraveled. The truth came out quickly. No inheritance, no access, no future funds. The luxury deposits he'd made? Non-refundable. The leases he signed? Binding. Within months, the man who once mocked my small thinking was drowning in debt created by imaginary wealth. He filed for bankruptcy. He tried to contact me again, through friends, through lawyers, through apologies dressed in nostalgia. I declined every attempt. I wasn't punishing him. I was protecting myself. Instead of buying estates, I built infrastructure. The Clear Ledger Initiative started small, just a handful of grants for women over 40 who had ideas but no safety net, women who had been told they waited too long, women whose stability was mistaken for fear, women whose loyalty had been exploited. I recognized them instantly. The foundation grew, not because of money, but because of trust. 5 years later, I walk into our headquarters every morning, a space designed with light, transparency, and purpose. On my desk sits the same crystal paperweight Victor gave me years ago. It reminds me where this all began. I did find love again. His name is Julian, an architect, thoughtful, quietly brilliant. He admired my work before he knew my story, and when he learned it, he never treated it like a trophy. We build together, plan together, argue respectfully, laugh often. Equality feels peaceful. As for Marcus, Nora saw him once years later. He was coaching a children's soccer team in a small town up north. No designer clothes, no entourage, just a man explaining rules to kids who barely listened. She said he looked calmer, smaller, human. I hope he learned something. I truly do, because money doesn't create character. It reveals it. And sometimes losing everything is the only way a person learns what was valuable all along. Marcus thought wealth would give him a new life, but it only exposed the emptiness he'd been hiding. For me, losing my marriage gave me something far greater: clarity, confidence, and a future built on my own terms. If you've ever had a moment, big or small, that revealed someone's true character, I'd love to hear about it. Drop your story in the comments. And if this one resonated with you, don't forget to like and subscribe. You never know which ending is waiting just one decision away.